Whether you're in urgent need of a 3D picnic table for some reason, or you just need a lot of good Blender information all in one place, this tutorial has you covered. Keep watching. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Derek Elliott from Dirk.com, and today we have some modifier magic about to happen. I don't know if that'll end up in the title or maybe it'll be a new series, but yeah, we're gonna make a picnic table and it is gonna be magical, and that magic will be achieved with some clever modifiers, hence modifier. Okay, I'll shut up. I'm gonna take everything I got here, press A to select it all, and then press X to delete it, just so that I have a nice clean slate. And then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and add a plane. And that's a plane right there, added. So what I want to do first is basically I'm going to make the kind of the top surface of this picnic table. And so I'm doing that with this plane here. I'm going to just go ahead and tab into edit mode. And then I'm going to scale it on the x-axis by pressing S and then X. And then I'm going to hold control just to snap to some kind of increments. You can see in this top left corner here, I'm kind of seeing what that scale is. And then I'm also looking at this grid. So maybe scale it out by about 5. And then let's do the same thing on the y-axis, SY. Again, holding control to give me some good increments. And yeah, 3 looks pretty good. And so yeah, this is going to be the top of our picnic table, but it's certainly not there yet. Let's add some. Let's kind of chop it up so that it looks picnic table-y, like it's made out of slats. So to do that, I'm going to use what is it called? Like a loop cut, I think. Yeah, loop cut and slide. So I'm going to press Control R to do that command. And you'll see this yellow line here. That's where it's going to be cut. But now I want to add multiple cuts. So what I can do is when I see that yellow line, if I just scroll up on my mouse wheel, it'll start adding new cuts. And I think 4 cuts, so that I've got 5 slats is going to be pretty good. If you don't have a mouse wheel, by the way, you can, so when you press Control R, if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a little bit of info. Select a ring to be cut, use mouse wheel, or page up/down for number cuts. A lot of things in Blender will have a little tooltip down there in the bottom left, kind of telling you how to operate it. So you can also use the page up and page down buttons to do that if you don't have a mouse wheel, but you should definitely be working with a mouse wheel if you're going to be doing much in Blender. It's quite handy. So I've scrolled up here. I've got 4 cuts. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to right click just to release that so that those cuts appear evenly. And then with that still selected, I want to kind of cut, I want to kind of split these edges and make a little space between them. So I'm going to do that with a bevel. And to do that bevel, I'm going to press Control B. And then as I drag outwards, you'll see what that's doing. It's basically, normally when you think of a bevel, you think of it more to kind of round out some edges or something like that. But it can also be a useful way to add extra geometry, or in this case, kind of to create faces where those edges were. So again, Control B, and then I'm just holding Shift to kind of fine tune this. And then when I've got it somewhere I like, something like that, I'm going to left click. And then with all those still selected, I'm going to press X and delete those faces. So what I have now is starting to look a lot more like a picnic table. We've got our slats there, and we're ready to move on to the next parts. This is a very magical looking picnic table. No, it's not. And this has not been modifier magical either, because we haven't used any modifiers yet. So let's go ahead and move this up. I'm going to press G and Z and move it something like that. Whatever table height is. Obviously, if this was going to go into architecture model or something, you'd want it to be accurate, but we aren't worried about that. So yeah, let's get back to that modifier magic. So I'm going to go over here into this wrench, and I'm going to add a modifier. And the first modifier I'm going to use is one of my favorites, the Solidify Modifier. It does exactly what it sounds like. You might have to zoom in a little bit to see it, or bump this thickness up. What it does is solidifies, so set that to whatever value you like. Again, I'm holding Control in this field just to snap to increments, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, if I do say so myself. And yeah, leaving it at a nice 0.2, but do whatever you like, whatever looks good. Maybe you've got ultra thin picnic table wood from the Amazon, or yeah, never mind. It doesn't, just do that, make it fat if you want, I don't care. So we've got the picnic table top done. And yeah, if we tab out of here, we're looking at it. It looks pretty cool. Not that cool though. It's a little bit 3D-ish. It's a little blocky. These sharp edges certainly are not very realistic. So let's take care of those first of all. I'm going to do that with a bevel modifier. So I'm going to add a modifier, and that will be the bevel modifier right here under generate. So click that, and we can see that is beveling those edges. It's got them kind of coming to a point here, and that's because, if we were to drag this bevel width up, it's not going to do anything. If we drag it down, we'll start to see what it's doing a little bit. But the reason it kind of stops right there is because we've got this clamp overlap option on, which usually you want to keep that on, but what that does is just make sure you don't overlap. You can see with that disabled, the bevel is going all sorts of crazy. Great for abstract art, not for magical modifier picnic tables. So yeah, we're gonna leave that clamp on, and then let's turn this down. I'm just getting this to a nice, I just want to break those edges a little bit. And depending on how rounded you wanted this to be, you could actually go in here and up the segments. That'll round it more, but that's also going to add quite a bit of extra geometry that we really don't want. At least I don't want. I'm going for a little bit of a low poly style here. Maybe you're not. I'm just going to leave that at 1. I think that's going to look fine, just breaking those edges a little bit. So that's cool, but maybe you were looking at some reference images. Maybe you looked at the top of a fence one time. The corners were chopped off. Yeah, why don't we just go ahead and add that in there too. Let's tab into edit mode. There's one way we could do this, and that's by doing another bevel with Control B. And then again, looking in the bottom left, you can see we've got a lot of options here. It's actually not even the bottom left. It's like the entire bottom of the screen is filled with options. But hiding there in the middle is the command V to bevel vertexes. So this would be one way to do it, but if you get it wrong or you want to change it later, not going to be in good shape. So we're actually going to do this with another bevel modifier. So let's just get back out of edit mode by pressing tab, and I'm going to add another bevel modifier. Now what this is doing is, it's beveling it again, which is kind of screwing this up. It's like adding the bevel on top of the bevel. Not really what we want to be happening. So I'm going to, again, I want that bevel to happen just on those vertices. And in edit mode, we have just those vertices. However, the Solidify is getting added and there's all this extra geometry. So we want that bevel to happen kind of earlier on. So these modifiers actually work in order. They build on top of each other. So what we want to do is basically move this new bevel up to the top. So I'm going to move it all the way up to the top. So now the bevel is the first thing happening. And what I can do is check this little button right here. You guessed it, only vertices. So what that's going to do is bevel vertices that it finds in the mesh at that point. So just those corners we've got beveled, looking good. And now we can adjust this so you could make it, super sharp if you wanted, or something like this. Or if you're a perfectionist, you can hold Control and snap to your perfect even number of choosing. I think I'll do that 0.1. Looks pretty good. Okay, so we're still just messing with this floating tabletop, which is obviously not very realistic. But hey, it's called Modifier Magic, so it's okay if things are floating when there's magic in the air. Anyways, I'm tabbing back into edit mode. I'm going to make the seats of this bench now, and I just want to select 2 of these. One of the reasons we start with the top is kind of just, it's building blocks. So now what we can do is, let's go into face select mode, and you can do that up here in the corner. Click on that option. Or if you wanted to, you can press 3 on your keyboard, just do regular numbers across the top, and that will switch into face select mode. 1 is vertice, 2 edge, and 3 is face. So now I can just click that face and then shift left click that face. And then I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to press shift D, and then I'm going to press Z so that that duplication moves along the Z axis. And then again, holding Control so that it snaps. I'm going to go down two notches there. And then let's go ahead and move it out a little bit. So I'm going to press G and Y to grab it along the Y axis. Move it out a little bit, something like that. Looking pretty good to me. And now let's get some seats for the fellas on the other side here. What we could do is just Shift D to duplicate it, and then Y and kind of drag it over. Since we've been snapping to increments, that would be pretty even like that. But what's this episode called again? And maybe it's not an episode. I don't know. Maybe we'll do episodes of Modifier Magic. Yes, Modifier Magic, that's what it's called. So let's use another modifier to make that happen. And the modifier we'll use this time is the mirror modifier. So way down here in our growing stack of modifiers, we have the mirror modifier. Doesn't appear to be working. Let's grab a face here and see what's going on. Oh, yep. So we're mirroring in the wrong direction. So I'm just going to uncheck that X, and we're going to mirror in the Y axis. And now you can see that that is working properly. Yeah, looking good. We got the bench over there. Okay, so what are we going to do next? Let's go ahead, I would say, and start building out some of the structure of the table. Maybe these kind of crossbars that come down. The way I'm going to do that, again, is just by duplicating one of these existing pieces so that we can kind of maintain our dimensions sort of how they are now. So what I'll do is press Shift D, and then so that it's straight up, I'm going to press R and Y, rotate on the Y axis. And then in the top left there, I'm looking at the snap increments. Again, holding Control. You can tell I'm a snappy man. I like to snap. We've got it at 90 degrees, standing straight up. And then now let's and I like to work with this on. It's just I like it a little bit more. I'm going to hold Control and just drag on this X-axis a little bit. Bring that over. And that's about where I want it, and we can see it's nicely getting mirrored over there. So let's go ahead and go into our front view, or I guess it's the side view in this case, pressing 3 on my number pad. And I'm just going to kind of find a nice kind of spot here for that. Maybe something like that. Looks pretty picnic table-y to me. Obviously this is way too long though, so I'm going to press 2 to go into my edge select. And then if I press G twice, I can edge slide inwards so that I maintain that angle I had, that beautiful even angle. Actually, I don't know if that holds. Did I hold Control? Did I snap? I don't remember. Anyways, now this part is not going to be super accurate. We're going to just kind of grab that manually, and then we're going to do the same right. Oh, jeez. We're going to select that one, pop that guy right about there. Now this isn't as accurate, of course, but that's all right. It's just under the table. No one looks down there, except for every kid at a picnic ever. That's okay. Kids, stay away from 3D. It's very dangerous. 3D picnic tables are not safe. The edges are uneven underneath. So yeah, let's maybe even that up just a little bit more. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's go into our view again. I'm liking that. I think that's solid. Now, one thing I don't like though is that this little choppy cutout that we did with that bevel modifier is happening down here, and it looks a little bit funky. It also probably wouldn't be happening right there. So we need to kind of tell that bevel modifier, hey buddy, watch out. I don't want you everywhere. Get off my picnic table except for the seats in the top. It'd be nice if you could just talk to Blender like that, but obviously you can't. So we need to find that bevel modifier. Yeah, that's the one. And this little display option is handy for finding stuff. So yeah, that's that modifier. Now, how are we going to control that? Well, we need to limit it. So it's probably one of these guys. We need to limit the weight. So every vertex and edge has a bevel weight associated with it. So if we select that to weight, you can see it completely goes away. And that's because if we go into edit mode, press A to select everything, and then bring up our sidebar with N, we'll see the mean bevel weight of all these vertices is 0. And again, we are beveling only the vertices here, so this is the value we want to look at. So if I drag that up to 1, that means everything is going to get full value of whatever weight, bevel, category, modifier thing there is. So yeah, we've got the bevel on everything again, but now again, I want to disable it on a few here. So Alt-Z can go into X-ray mode. I want to select those ones, and I guess I could have just selected the face and turn that vertice bevel data all the way down, and you can see it has disappeared. But maybe we do want it just a little bit on this one, so we can turn that bevel weight up to 0.5, for example. Again, Derek the perfectionist. Okay, looking good. And so that would mean that it gets, I think that means it gets half this value. So, technically that would be 0.05 or whatever math that works out to be. You nerds in the chat are going to tell me I did that wrong. Just kidding. I like the math experts. You guys are here to help me. Guys and girls, which by the way, let's get some more freaking girls doing Blender. It's like all dudes in this place. Okay, so we got that. That looks good. Now let's just add a couple more pieces of supports. that makes any sense. Actually, we got a little bit of a problem here. We got the mirror happening how we like it here. It's happening how we like it here, but it is not mirroring over here. So let's maybe go back to our mirror modifier and turn that axis, that x-axis back on. So now we really have only there's one piece of geometry here, and it's getting mirrored all over the place, all over this picnic table. We have mirror action going on. So that's great, but you know, these ones still have, this is kind of like crossing the mirror plane. And by the way, I didn't mention it earlier, but the mirror, kind of the axis that it mirrors across is always based on the origin of the object. So had you accidentally moved your origin, you might be getting some funky behavior with the mirror modifier, but mine's right there in the center, so pretty good shape. So yeah, like I was saying, this is kind of like crossing the plane and stuff, and you probably want to avoid that, otherwise it might get a little bit confusing later if you're starting to make some changes. So I'm going to go into my vertice select mode, and I'm going to select all the vertices on this edge. I'm going to circle select them by pressing C, and then I'm just going to move them all the way back here. Oh gosh, yeah, see, it was kind of overlapping. We don't really want that. That might cause some problems later with like textures or something like that. So I'm just going to move it back there for now, and then in the mirror modifier, I'm going to turn on this little option right here, clipping. And now when I drag these over, they will lock up with each other. So now if I try to grab them again, they're locked, and that's what I want. And if you need to unlock them, which we might in a minute, you can just uncheck that clipping and then turn it back on. So that's great, but we've got this happening now. Kind of cool. Maybe that's your style. Maybe you want to put like little umbrellas in there or something. There's an idea. I do love furniture design, by the way, so picnic tables are near and dear to me. I've never designed a picnic table, but anyways. How do we get rid of those little holes happening there? Well, again, it has to deal with the way these modifiers are stacked. And this, I think, is called the modifier stack. So we need that mirror to happen pretty much before everything. So let's just move it to the top. And this can always be kind of confusing. By the way, you can collapse these so that once you're done with them, it's a little easier to look at the order. So let's move these up. And yeah, now we've got our mirror modifier all the way at the top. And that's great. Technically, we've got it, you know, we've kind of got duplicate stuff here too. So we could, I think, you know, delete these, and then, yeah. So then now we're truly building only a quarter of this table. It looks like we've got a little bit of duplication funkiness going on there. Maybe there's like an extra edge or something. Oh yeah, I missed a vertice. Okay, now we're looking good. Yeah, there's a little bit of a weird thing going on in the interface there. But anyways, this is pretty much our picnic table. Let's just add a couple more pieces. I think I'll use this one here. So selecting that face, and then back in my side view, I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, rotate it on the x-axis. Now this is since this was rotated at a weird angle, when I snap to my increments, it's a little bit offset there. One way to fix that is to well, let's go ahead and cinch those all up. So something like that. Now, one way to fix this would be there's a number of ways to do this, like any way in Blender, but I'm going to actually do Shift S and snap selection to grid. And now we'll take all these vertices I have selected and snap them to the grid, which almost worked. So it got this one and this one were close enough to the grid points that they snapped up. This one was not. So I'm just going to drag this down, holding Control to that grid point. And now I know that it's aligned with the grid. And now it doesn't have to be on the grid. I just wanted them to be even. Like, you know, in line with each other. So I'm just going to drag this back up into position. And yeah, it looks pretty good. I think I want that to be on the other side though. So one thing I can do is just bring it over like this. Or what I could do is type F3 and then search for flip normals, which you can see I already had pulled up there. Flip normals, that will flip the kind of direction of the face, which is what this Solidify modifier is using to know which way it goes. So now with that there, it's going kind of the proper direction. These faces are still on top of each other, but they're pointing different ways technically. So let's just take this and then let's duplicate it again. So Shift D, Z, and you know, with that clipping enabled, I can just, I actually don't even need to press Z because I can move this in and out and it's just automatically kind of chopping it right there in the middle. So let's just move that to a decent place. Somewhere like that I think looks pretty good. and then tab out, take a look at how we're doing. I think we're doing pretty darn good, guys. I hope your picnic table is as beautiful as mine. This is a competition. I'm just kidding. But if you do make a cool picnic table, totally send it to me on like Instagram or something. I'll share it. So yeah, we got our picnic table there. Let's add just one more little middle support. The way I'm going to do that, I think, is by just taking this piece here, Shift D, and rotating on the Z-axis. That clipping is running into some issues there. Let's disable that for a second. R, Z, and snap it 90 degrees, and then we can turn that clipping back on. And then I think I'm just going to run this all the way into itself so that we just get that right in the middle, which is a little funky, like, technically, like what side is it on when they're both colliding. But again, small detail there. Let's go into our view here on the side. And maybe we turn off that clipping one more time and just rotate this. And then this is where it's going to get real sketchy. Watch out, kids under the table. This is going to be super uneven. I'm going to press Alt-Z to go into my X-ray mode. And I'm just going to kind of move these till they're in a spot I like. And maybe move that up a little bit. It's never a good idea to be too much of a perfectionist when it comes to 3D. Unless, of course, someone's paying you for it. Even then, don't spend too much time. Don't drive yourself crazy trying to get this stuff perfect. Just, have a good time. Get it all looking pretty good. And call it a day. Be happy with what you made. And today, if you followed along correctly, we have made a picnic table. I think it looks pretty good. Hopefully you guys were able to follow along with that. I really hope you learned something about modifiers and how magical they are. Maybe you learned something about picnic tables. Maybe you just enjoyed listening to me talk for however long I've been talking for. Anyways, hope you got something out of it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Blender tutorials. And always feel free to leave a comment with any suggestions you have for future tutorials. I am always looking for ideas. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, Twitter. Don't want to do much tweeting, but maybe someday. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.